time to look at the statues and dine or something. You've been in a worship service where, including the preacher and the piano player, there are 10 people. Now imagine that in the middle of Sodom. And God says, oh sure, I'll spare the city. I'll just pass over it. I won't touch it. If there are 10 in Sodom. Is that consistent with your mental picture of God? Now please don't dilute it and don't misunderstand what I'm saying. God is to be feared. God is a God of righteous wrath and judgment, yes. But is that consistent with the way we hold the ideas together? What else do we find in the Old Testament? We find a theology that prioritizes love of enemy and not vengefulness toward him. Of course, there's a well-known passage, Exodus 23, not long after the Ten Commandments are given. If you find that your enemy's ox or donkey has run away, that's a tricky situation to deal with. God's word says, be sure to return it. If you see that the donkey of someone who hates you has fallen under its load, do not leave it there. Be sure you help them with it. Some well-known proverbs along these lines. Proverbs 25:21. If your enemy is hungry, give him food to eat. If he's thirsty, give him water to drink. Proverbs 24:17. Do not gloat when your enemy falls. Do not let your heart rejoice when your enemy stumbles. Somehow, though these were written after he lived, Job knew these things. Remember Job, in his defense, he says, verse 31:29, if I have rejoiced in my enemy's ruin, if I've exulted when evil befell my enemy, let the Almighty answer me and let my accuser indict me. Verse 30, I have not allowed my mouth to sin by asking for my enemy's life with a curse. What else do we find in the Old Testament? We find righteous Joseph. If ever a human being was in a position to take revenge, and if ever it would have been justified, but he refuses to take revenge on his enemies. We find David, who was the human author of many of those imprecatory psalms that we wrestle to systematize and understand fully. As a man, his life bears out a very important example for us. During his lifetime, showing long-suffering to Shimei, who cursed him and threw stones at him. Repenting just for cutting off the corner of Saul's robe. His conscience smiting him. Even though he had the upper hand, even though it was told to him, God has delivered your enemy into your hand. David mourning upon hearing the news of the death of his enemies. And probably most poignant of all, we find the